Happy 4th of July 2023. This is Cancer Update 22. Hello, my name is Paul in Perth. I always remember the 4th of July for two reasons. One is that it is American Independence Day, and the other is thanks to something that happened to me in 1990. 4th of July 1990 it was. I also call this day Finger Independence Day because on the 4th of July 1990, I accidentally amputated the end of my right index finger. It's not actually that much, it's that much of my finger is how much is missing. And that happened on the 4th of July 1990. So like I say, I also refer to this day as Finger Independence Day. I guess my finger just wanted to spend some time on their own, and that's what they did. So I hope all of you over in the United States are having a great 4th of July. It is an overcast day here in Perth. We have had a fair bit of rain in the last 24 hours, and I can see outside the trees are blowing around. So it looks like it's very, very windy outside at the moment. So I know I've shown you a lot of beautiful sunny winter days in Perth that look like they're summer. I do assure you that there are also some very wet and windy and wild days in Perth as well. When people ask me what is Perth weather like, or the Perth weather as opposed to climate, I describe Perth weather as being honest. And what I mean by that is that when Perth decides to be hot, it's really hot. And when it decides to rain, it really rains. And when it decides to be fine, it's just really fine. This is in contrast to some other cities that I've visited in the world where I would describe as being, for example, 4 seasons in one day. You will not have a day in Perth that is 4 seasons in one day. It will pick a season and it will stick to it and it will deliver. That is Perth weather. So to give you an update on a few things, and I don't believe any of you are actually keeping a calendar on this. Well, I am, but you probably aren't. But last Monday, I went on to these weekly Buprenorphine patches. And today is Tuesday, which means I have just taken off my old patch. You can even see a bit of the adhesive from the original patch, which was there. I've now put on my second patch. Excuse me. It is this strength of buprenorphine. So it is 5 micrograms per hour and the pack is 5 milligrams. I know that when I first introduced this to you, which must have been last Monday or Tuesday, I got a bit confused there. It actually, when you read the pack, surprise, surprise, when you read the instructions, the answer is there. It's actually quite clear. If you read the green, it says 5 micrograms per hour. And if you read the black part, it says 5 milligrams in the patch as a whole. So of course, over 7 days, there's 5 milligrams in there, but it transfers to you at a rate of 5 micrograms per hour. So first bit of news is I'm on my second patch, so week 2 of 4 on the 5 microgram per hour buprenorphine. The other thing to tell you is that this afternoon is my first chemo oncology appointment. It's at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I am not going there alone. I'm going there with my brother. I did notice looking over my videos that a lot of the time it's just me. I mean, there was Chrissy that took me to my colonoscopy, and when I went and visited Gruffy, Craig came out and hung out with me, but a lot of the time it's just me. And I don't want to give you the impression that I'm, for whatever reason, on this journey on my own without a support system. That is absolutely false. I have a huge support system. A lot of you have commented that I come across as a very friendly person. That evidently is a correct observation about me, and I have tons and tons of friends. I also have family, and most of my family I get along with very, very well. There are a few elements of my family that are not quite on the same page as me on a few key topics. But by and large, my family are well and truly on board. And as an example of that, later in this video, you're going to meet my brother Noel. Excuse me. Now, as I said, I'm the youngest of 5. So my mum and dad had 5 kids and I'm number 5. Noel is number 4. So just to give you a bit of background on that, how that all played out. Oh, actually, I'll tell you a really interesting, it's a funny story about my mother. My family was done after 4 kids. There are 12 years between me and Noel. So when you meet Noel in, it'll be a few minutes for you, it'll be quite a few hours for me. You'll notice that we actually look relatively similar. We certainly have the same parents and the same genetics. There's actually 12 years between Noel and I. I'm born in 1970. Noel is born in 1958. And he's my next nearest sibling. All of my other siblings are older than Noel. So they were born before 1958. And what happened was, so it's 1970. Now remember, my mother was a nurse, and I'm sure you don't need to point it out to you, my mother is female. So it's 1970, my mother's periods stop. My mother is 45 at this point, and she goes to the doctor. And she says to her doctor, "Doctor, my periods have stopped. I have hit menopause." The doctor does a few tests and says, "Mrs. You've not hit menopause. You're definitely pregnant." And my mother said, with the greatest of kindness to you, with no disrespect, "I am a woman. You are a man. This is my body. This is not your body. I've hit menopause." And apparently the doctor tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Yes, Mrs. Surname, but please come back in 3 months for your first trimester checkup." And of course, it turned out that the doctor was right and my mother was wrong. And that little baby inside my mother was me. And I was born just before my mother's 46th birthday. So when I was born, my mother was just off 46. I was born in September and my mother turned 46 in December. And my dad had just turned 49 because he was born in 1921 and he's born in August. So he was 49 and almost 1 month when I was born. So that's my story. So I am the 5th of 5, but I'm very much a younger 5th of 5. However, Noel and I are very, very close, even with the 12 years between us. I won't tell you everything about Noel just yet because he can tell you those things himself. But I would certainly say that there's a great emotional bond between Noel and I, and that bond has grown stronger since my cancer diagnosis, and even before my cancer diagnosis. This time last year, one of our other brothers, the third sibling, had some mental health struggles, or he still does have those mental health struggles. And Noel and I became guardians of the third sibling, and Noel and I obviously became very close through that process. So Noel and I have bonded very much more strongly in the last year than previously. So my chemo appointment is at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. this afternoon. It's now just after 11 a.m. So, but I'm meeting Noel beforehand at about 1:20. So in the next couple of hours, what I'm going to do is do some research on some of the chemo drugs, because I don't want to be in a situation where the chemotherapist says, "Right, Paul, here are your treatment options. Which one do you pick?" Because you might remember, I see myself as broadly having 3 options at this point, and only 2 of them involve chemotherapy. Option 3, which is refuse all treatment, get therapeutic drains and punch out with VAD, is option 3. And at this point right now, I have not discounted option 3. So I don't want to be, shall we say, not peer pressured, professionally pressured, I guess would be the term. Professionally pressured into whatever chemotherapy I say this is a male chemotherapist, so when I say he really is a he. I don't want to be pressured into whatever treatment option he prefers or that he recommends or in his mind he believes I should be getting next week. So I want to have a lot more knowledge in my mind as I head into that meeting, and I certainly want to have a lot more understanding before I make a decision. And if he is going to press me for a decision today, I will ask a lot of questions before I give him a clear answer. But I also want to strengthen myself with knowledge before I go into that room. In particular, one chemotherapy, I guess it's called drug. One chemotherapy drug that I'm going to be looking at is called FOLFOX. FOLFOX is a cocktail of 3 individual chemotherapy drugs, which is folinic acid, fluorouracil, and oxaliplatin. The reason I'm going to look at that one in particular is, firstly, it's going to tell me about three drugs, not one. Secondly, when I attended my P&P Pals support session I think it was last Thursday, I forget. We talked around the room about our various situations, and FOLFOX came up in discussion. And one of the 3 components of FOLFOX, which is the fluorouracil, is otherwise known as 5-FU. And 5-FU was mentioned quite a few times in that P&P Pals session. So 5-FU sounds like it is a drug that is often recommended for people with PMP. I dare say there's a very high probability it will be one of the drugs that is at least discussed, if not offered to me today. So I want to know all about 5-FU before I walk into that room. So I think that's all I want to say right now. I'll talk to you, I guess, when I'm at Murdoch Hospital and with my brother. Now, it's no secret by now my views on Christianity, and they are that whilst I'm not a Christian, I am very tolerant and inclusive of people that follow the Christian faith. For those of you that are interested to know, the hospital that I'm going to, which is Murdoch Hospital in Murdoch, Western Australia, is a denominational hospital, specifically within the denomination of the Christian faith. And I'm very happy that they exist, and I have no internal conflict with availing myself to their services. So, and I mention this because I know that some of you are going to be really pleased, and I'm hoping that very few of you are going to be actually upset. All right, look, we're just mucking around with the camera now. This is my brother Noel. He's
just done his shirt up.
He's just done his shirt up, and would you describe yourself as a bit of an introvert?
No, not really. No.
All right. Okay. I've always thought of Noel as slightly introverted, but he's not. So yeah, we're just trying to sort out that light, that big light behind Noel's head. If we put it like that, how about that, Noel?
Yeah.
Boom! Boom! We got it.
No, I got hair highlighters.
If that's how you want to play it, that's fine. Yeah, mate. There you go. You've got golden highlights in your hair.
Yep.
So this is my brother Noel. He's 12 years older than me. So I'm 52, and Noel is
54. 64. Whoops.
Is these things happen with old
middle age.
These things happen with middle age, is it? Yeah, I think it might be a bit further than that, mate. Just bring your head forward so you don't have that. They're covering that light. There you go. Boom. So this is my brother Noel. So we're in at Murdoch Hospital. I've got my booking with my chemo oncologist booked for 1:45 p.m. and I think it's now about 1:20, 1:30
for a while.
We'll check shortly. And actually on that topic, probably Noel and I have got a few things to talk about. So what we'll do is we'll just leave the camera rolling, and I will edit out anything that's inappropriate. We'll leave in whatever is fine for you to see. But basically, I'm just going to have a conversation with Noel, just to find out what's happened, because we've only got a bit of time left.
1:34.
1:34. So we've got basically 10 minutes, a bit over 10 minutes, yeah. Anyway, so we're just going to have general chit-chat, so we'll see. How'd you go on you came in by train, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So easy. Grabbed the bike, and when I was changing trains in Perth there, I was just getting the bike positioned in the disabled section, and someone goes and jumps in the seat.
In the disabled seat?
Well, yeah, in the seats right behind there. And it was like, excuse me, can I put the bike, can I sit there? Because otherwise we've got a bike flying across the carriage.
So they're like about your age, or they're younger? Or?
They're about middle age.
Okay, all right.
Probably, retired. A bit older than me, actually.
Hang on. So, wait, I'm 52, you're 64, so they're a bit older than you, and you're saying they're middle-aged?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, mate, all right. Okay, that's cool. How are you feeling about today?
Yeah,
so the
Far out.
so I'd put them aside.
That's great.
Yeah. So have you seen this oncologist before?
No, never. So you remember I went up to Joondalup Health Campus,
Yes.
had the laparoscope, and they took out the 7 litres.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And they gave me a PCI rating of 39 out of 39. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So at that point, that specialist said to me, I can't offer you the CRS and the HighPEC. What I can offer you is a referral to an oncologist, a chemotherapy oncologist,
Right.
to do chemotherapy to get your PCI score down lower. And once your PCI score is lower, then I can offer you CRS and HighPEC.
Have you got a number to aim for?
That's a good. No, I don't. That's a good question. Can you remind me of that when we're in there?
Sure.
That's a really, really good question. I hadn't thought of. I honestly.
What are we aiming for?
Yeah, what are we aiming for? What would be the best? That's a really, really good question. Thank you. I don't know the answer to that.
Sure.
I don't know now anyway. So the idea is to get the PCI score down lower. The indication was that it would be 6 months of chemo, and then I would be referred back to that PMP specialist up at Joondalup.
Yep.
And he would do, I'm guessing, another laparoscope, and he would then give me another PCI score out of 39.
Okay.
And on the assumption that it's acceptable medically. Basically what they're trying to do is say it's worthwhile to have the surgery. So as long as it's worthwhile to have the surgery, then they'll offer that, and we'll do it. So that's one course of action, which for my viewers, they will know that as option number 1 is to do chemo followed by CRS and HighPEC. There is another option, which is option 2, which is palliative care or palliative chemo, which means I'll do the chemo only, but I won't do the CRS and HighPEC. But the rationale of that is the chemo should extend my life, should help me to live longer, and I'm going to trade off that the chemo is going to make me a bit unwell in the short term, but I will live longer, I will live significantly longer enough to make that worthwhile.
Yep.
So that's...
Now that you don't have the signet cell carcinoma, then that becomes a more realistic
so I haven't
option.
spoken to my users about that.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you users, you're subscribers. Sorry, I do come from an IT background, so that's where that word comes from. I want the oncologist to tell me, why does this one report talk about signet ring cells?
Yep.
Why does this other one talk about goblet cells? And why does this other one talk about carcinoma? And this other one talk about adenocarcinoma? So I do not have an answer to you on that topic.
Get some clarity.
I do not understand it. What I can tell you is I have I think 4 reports that say a variety of signet ring cell, goblet, carcinoma, adenocarcinoma.
Yep.
And I don't know whether that's... I need to understand the nuances of that.
Yeah, they're probably
Noel,
present everywhere.
yeah,
So.
just off camera, Noel just... in fact, Noel's phone has just gone. You go take that, buddy. I'll talk to camera.
G'day, Connie.
So Noel's just having a word to... It looks like his wife has just called him. It's now 1:40, which means my appointment starts in 5 minutes. So we are now going to walk over to the actual lobby of the medical professional. What do you call it? Like the suite. We're going to walk over there now, and we certainly won't be filming inside of that meeting. But I dare say I will have a chat to you after that meeting. So stick with me. Talk to you soon. Hi. I'm back from the chemotherapist, and I've got plenty to talk about, and it's not all good. It's also not all definitely bad, by the way. But it's one of those moments where you know someone's not sugarcoating. When you know someone is being deeply honest with you. And I do reflect that some people that commented said your PCI is 39 out of 39. You're done like a dinner. And well, just follow the story. You might be right. Okay, so the first thing we talked about was that I had been... You remember the story. If you don't remember it, go back and read the old stories. I'm not going to repeat it here. If you want the story, go back and read the early chapters, okay? First thing we did was clarify what cytology I have, because I have various cytology reports. One that says signet ring carcinoma, another one says goblet cell, another one says carcinoma, another one says adenocarcinoma, and I'm confused. I don't know what I have. I don't know what that means for my survivability stats, because you remember in one of the updates, I had, I think it was update 11, I had a chart up, and the worst line on that chart, which was a dark blue line, was for signet ring cell cancer, and it was the worst one. So he clarified for me that my cancer is goblet cell, not signet ring cell. And he also indicated that it is normal within a goblet cell sample that there will be a few signet ring cells in there. That does not mean it is characterised as a signet ring cell carcinoma. It just means there are a few of that cell type, but that's not what the endemic population in my case is goblet cell. So I have goblet adenocarcinoma. Now, adeno means arising from a gland. Carcin means, carcinos is actually Greek meaning crab, and oma means tumour. So I've got arising from a gland, the crab tumour. And the reason the Greeks called it crab is because when they looked at it when they looked at it closely, it looked like the crabs of a claw that were strangling the tumour. That's also, by the way, why the astrology symbol of Cancer is shown as a crab. It's because from the Greek word carcinos, meaning crab, but then also meaning squeezing a tumour, meaning cancerous or carcinogenic. My brother then asked, what PCI does he need to get down to before the original surgeon from Joondalup would take me back to have another discussion about doing HighPEC? He's currently 39 out of 39. How low does he have to get for that surgery to be viable? And he gave me a very definitive answer to this. The answer is 15 out of 39. So I gather from that 15 out of 39 and lower is the qualification for HighPEC. I'm currently 39 out of 39, therefore I am currently unsuitable, but that is the benchmark. If I can get to 15 out of 39, I would be eligible for HighPEC. Now, you'd recall that I have up until this point described that I have 3 options. So option 1 is do the chemo until I get my PCI down to what I now know is 15 out of 39 or less, and then go and take the HighPEC surgery, is option 1. Number 2 is palliative chemotherapy. And number 3 was do nothing and wait for an early organ failure, and then punch out with voluntary assisted dying. I came to a conclusion during this appointment with my chemo oncologist that I am drawing a line through option 3. I am not going to do nothing and just wait for organs to fail. I am relatively young, being 52. I am relatively healthy, given that at the moment, everywhere in my abdomen is pre-cancer. I don't have cancer anywhere apart from the original cancer that I got in the appendix. And the way he described it to me, the appendix gets the cancerous tumour and bursts and distributes that cancerous payload. But then by all accounts, the way he made it sound is the appendix at that point is actually normal. It goes back to being normal is the way it sounds. He actually gave a really interesting analogy. One thing I love about this doctor is he loves analogies, and as you might gather, I love analogies too. He gave an analogy of, imagine a lunchbox with being all the abdominal organs in the peritoneum. He said, imagine a lunchbox, and in that lunchbox you've got sausage rolls, and you've got bananas, and you've got pies, and then over here you've got the appendix, and the appendix is like milk. But then the appendix goes puh, and bursts the milk out all over the rest of the lunch. Well, all of the rest of the lunch now needs to be cleaned. It's now covered in milk, but the milk bottle is now empty. So the appendix is now empty. The tumour isn't in the appendix anymore. The tumour is everywhere through the abdominal cavity. So he said, actually, Paul, there's very, very little value in giving you an appendectomy because the appendix has already delivered its deadly payload and it doesn't have any deadly payload left. It's like an empty milk bottle. The milk has already spilt and there is no more milk in there to come out. It's an empty milk bottle now. So I found that a really useful analogy. It very, very much helped me understand the dynamics of what happened. I mentioned to him that I had felt nothing when the appendix had delivered its payload, and he said that is always, or I'm guessing it's pretty much always. I think he actually said that is always the case. No one ever feels it. So for those of you with your appendix intact, best of luck. 1 in a million chance per year that your appendix is just going to silently go puh, and you're going to end up like me. 1 in a million per year, right? Very unlikely, but please don't think that in all cases your appendix is your friend. That's what I've learned through this journey. So, having ruled a line through option 3 of taking no treatment, that leaves me with options 1 and 2. And to that end, my chemo oncologist has recommended that I go on FOLFOX 6. And if you remember, I talked about FOLFOX before going to the appointment because so many people in the PMP PALS support group had already gone on to FOLFOX. I'm going onto a version called FOLFOX 6. And he described it to me as being a bit like software. And this is a bit like FOLFOX version 6. There was a FOLFOX and then they improved it and that became FOLFOX 2 and they improved that and that became FOLFOX 3. He has now signed me up for the 6th version of FOLFOX, so FOLFOX 6. The way it works is he has signed me up for 6 sessions which are 14 days apart. So that is 3 months, okay? 6 sessions, 14 days apart, being for a total of 3 months. I then get a PET scan, and based on the results of that PET scan, they will or will not offer me a second round of 3 months of chemo, which is six sessions at a 14-day interval. We then talked about, well, why wouldn't you automatically offer me that second lot? And he said, sometimes people just don't react. They either don't tolerate the drug or the cancer just doesn't respond to it. And this is when I realised that my option 1 and my option 2 are intertwined, whether I like it or not, because I may find myself in a case where palliative chemotherapy is what I am being offered, because non-palliative chemotherapy is simply no longer offered to me because my PET scans are so bad. We then had a very, very real discussion about my probabilities of those various scenarios playing out, and would I make it to the end of 6? So would I go 3 months, have my PET scan, go another 3 months, and would I then go back to Joondalup Health Campus to have my HighPEC? And he looked me in the eye and he said, Paul, I need to be honest with you. We will need a miracle. Those are the exact words he used. We will need a miracle. He also said, I don't want to leave you bereft of all hope. He said, sometimes miracles do happen. I just don't want to fill you with false hope, because you have a very invasive cancer. You have a score of 39 out of 39. The score does not go any higher than that. And it will be hard, and you need to be realistic. You may not win this one. We will need a miracle to win this one. Those are obviously very difficult words to hear. And you and I guess, are going to hear them differently. To me, I hear it as, I'm in for a hell of a fight, but I want the fight. I know a lot of you are religious. I know a lot of you are Christians, so you're going to hear that word miracle. And I know a whole bunch of you are going to say this to me in the comments, and I encourage you to do that. You're going to say, Paul, I'm praying for a miracle. I'm happy for you to write that to me, and I'm happy for you to do it. So do pray for that miracle. I know that as a non-Christian, that might sound weird, but I also don't see the harm in it. I don't see the harm in... I don't know how many of you will pray for me. I know that I've got something like 4,000 subscribers now, and I guess in reality the number doesn't matter. I know a lot of you are going to pray for a miracle for me, and even though I'm not a Christian, I want to tell you something. Hearing your words, hearing you say, hearing you say, I'm praying for you, Paul, it means I know that you care. You care about my outcome. Now, let's please put religion to the side for a moment and just relate as humans. I feel that you care for me, and I do take great strength in that. I do want the miracle to happen. All the professionals I've talked, now that I'm getting to understand the word cured better, and every time I hear it now, I clarify what they actually mean. The oncologist today is essentially not offering to cure me. What he is in effect saying is, I don't think you'll make it to 5 years no matter what. But I do think we can get more than we are looking at now. And on balance, I think it's worth doing. This oncologist today did not say, I can cure you, in either the common use of that word or the medical use of that word. He didn't indicate that he thinks he can cure me. He thinks he can treat me for a while. So I think I said it in episode 11, I'm really not getting out of this alive. Whether that means I make it to 6 months or 4 years is yet to be seen. But medical specialists are now indicating I'm definitely not making it to 5 years. They are saying no, and they're saying actually, even to make a couple of years, you need a miracle. So that happened. I then asked him, we talked more about what the chemo process is. It's a 14-day cycle. So for 2 days you are being infused via a cannula. It turns out the cannula is going to be on my right subclavian. So I'm going to have a cannula about here. Okay, so right-hand side, subclavian vein or artery. I guess they can use a subclavian vein, so it'll be about there. So for 2 days they infuse the drugs. So for days 1 and 2, and then for days 13 to 14, you are recovering. And then on day 1 and day 2, you're infused again, and then days 3 to 14, you're recovering. And so that 14-day cycle continues for 6 cycles. I said to him, look, be honest with me, am I going to be wrecked for 14 days out of 14? And he said, no, you have more good days than bad days. And I said, so 8 good days and 6 bad days? And he said, Paul, I can't guarantee anything. Every person is different, and every cancer is different. But what I say to you is, you'll have more good days than bad days. We just need to get in there and find out. But he said, but for 2 days, the 2 days of the injection, you will be bad. So I said, okay, all right, I'll take on the fight. I'll take it on. So we agreed at that. We then talked about dosage. I am going to be on what is simply called full dose. So it turns out that when you get chemo drugs, you are either put on 100%, 80%, 60%, or 40% of a full dose. And I am going to be put on 100% of a full dose, which is simply called, I will be getting a full dose. It is put into your body through an infuser, what is called an infuser port. And I would describe it as a semi-permanent subsurface cannula. I'll pop up on the screen, so maybe I'll shift over to the side. So over here are some photos that I took when I was in the room talking with him. That first photo is the subsurface thing that they put under the skin. The second photo is how it looks from outside of your skin. Okay, so as you can see, it's got 3 little dots on it, and evidently at some point in the future I'm going to be showing you a point somewhere about here, and you are going to be able to see 3 dots under my skin, and that is the infuser port. And what that allows is for a medical professional, it doesn't actually have to be the oncologist, it can be a nurse practitioner at this point, will locate that, find the 3 dots, line it up, put the injection point in, inject the drugs into me, and when they're done, pull the needle out, and all is good and fine. So in effect, it is a long-term cannula. So it stays in for 6 months. So it stays in for the term of the chemotherapy. So I don't have to keep having cannulas put in and out and in and out and in and out. It is just an infusion port that stays in, and they keep using it. He defined to me that there are three. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes here. There are three main side effects of the treatment. He said there's actually in effect 20, and I indicated I already knew there was about 20. But he said the three main ones are nausea, fatigue, and basically susceptibility to infection. So, and that could be susceptibility to catching the flu, catching COVID, catching whatever. So my immune system will be absolutely compromised. So he said, look, the other symptoms, sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't, but the ones that I almost always see are nausea, fatigue, and likelihood of catching infections from other people. So he left me with that. I then said thank you to him and paid the bill, and I went down with my brother down to give blood. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I gave blood half an hour ago to get my initial blood counts. So we are going to be mapping my cancer markers. So in particular, my CA19-9 and my CEA are apparently the ones to watch. There is a third cancer marker called CA125, but the oncologist indicated that in my particular case, the CA125 won't be particularly applicable. 125 is particularly applicable for ovarian cancer. And I do not have ovarian cancer, don't even have ovaries. So then Noel and I had another chat, and we just talked brother stuff. And Noel then jumped back on his bike and went home. So that's how my day has gone. Look, I had plans to close out this video by telling you about this bit of writing here. I really don't feel like it right now. When I do tell you about it, you'll understand. And just very briefly, it shows you how my father got me into etymology, and that's my father breaking down the definition of the word enthusiasm. And right now I'm not feeling enthusiastic enough to take you through it, so this here will have to wait for another day. Thank you for being on the journey with me. Please pray for a miracle. I'll talk to you later.